Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
So in regards, if you piggyback onto that with SpaceX and where the enterprise value comes from, you're going to look at the where data centers are and how this impacts everything. Because I mean, AI data centers, electricity, water strain, all of the problems from 20, 30, 40 years ago that were dismissed are now becoming problems. And that's, I think, is the biggest thing, where you got to look at a company like SpaceX and what it's doing and go, okay, wait a minute. Someone like this is going to, because think about it, Len, at this point, the only way to get ourselves out of a situation that we're in right now with data centers in demand is to innovate our way out. Mm-hmm. We need, like I told my son the other day, Thomas, I said, he's 14 years old. I said, him and his brother, I said, I'd be so disappointed if I were you guys today and I was 14, 15 years old, because there's nothing cool going on as far as this level that you could do as a child right now. You just have to sit and wait and watch for this stuff to take place. Like, at least when I was a kid, like the internet and oh my God, it's starting to come out. This, it's like, there's nothing new. Like, I look at it and my kids are looking at me and I'm still more advanced than my kids. And that shouldn't be the case. And I feel that's the way, even for a lot of parents that are in our age group right now. Mm-hmm. But think about it this way, Len. We should have been building massive desalination plants decades ago. We should have been building nuclear power plants decades ago. We should have been investing in infrastructure decades ago. Mm-hmm. But we didn't.
And we wouldn't be in this problem right now.
Right.
If we had. Absolutely.
We invested in pet green energy, useless projects. Useless. Look, think about it. Hold on. And I'm going to make a point. I'm going to throw it to you.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it to you. Okay. Who's the biggest builder of coal, oil, and nuclear power plants?
Have no idea.
China.
Oh, okay.
You love to talk about China so much.
Okay.
China has built.
Talking about an industry or company within the United
China
States.
has built their infrastructure out. Why?
100%.
Why? Because they know. See, but America, we've been so stuck with all these outside NATO influences, and I'm not blaming it all on NATO, but I mean, those people, those people that think that they cross their legs all the way to the left when they cross their legs when they sit in a chair and they have a very nice $4,500 suit, and they go to these weird conferences in these weird aristocratic areas of the world, and then they talk ultra realistic about how everybody's going to survive because they're so smart, and realistically, all they're doing is they're raping and pillaging the rest of the world. And then they infect the rest of the world with their weird liberal ideas. And then they come and say, let's build green energy. And it's a great point, because here's the reality behind it. Okay. Who knows what's going to happen before anybody knows what's going to happen? For the most part, banks, because banks do these reports, and banks do reports based on 100 years, 150 years, 200 years, 500 years. Do you think banks would be financing the construction of condominiums and buildings in areas that all these people that are crazy been saying is going to flood for the last 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 years? They wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And in all these bank reports where they run this stuff, nowhere does it say that global warming is a factor when they look at their due diligence. Nowhere. Not one bank due diligence report when they invest to build projects, infrastructure, and projects around the world, or commercial, not one of them says that they look at global warming as a real risk. Doesn't that tell you something? It tells me a lot. It tells me that they don't have a financial vested interest in that, because when you look at global warming, I'm not. Now look, I'll be the first to say, why doesn't China believe in global warming? Okay, why doesn't China believe in global warming?
You made a couple of points I want to address before we go down the road. Okay, so one, China is one of the biggest producers of coal and all those things you mentioned, right?
And nuclear.
But they're also one of the biggest producers of solar, which is a type of green energy. And so I don't think it's a one or the other. I think it's both and. And so I think, unfortunately, you've got the right that's saying, global warming is a farce. It's a sham. And
it is a farce.
Process. Okay. But we don't know that. And what we also don't know, what we do know is that sun is one of the most valuable and vast energy sources, and solar is a part of the green plan. So I think we need to have both. I believe that, getting oil and using coal is important in the early term, but you also have to think long term. And that's what China's been doing, because there was a time when Beijing, you could walk outside and practically cut through the smog with a knife because it was so thick and there weren't regulations. They've since changed that because their people were getting sick under the environmental toxins because there's so many cars producing that. So I think, but there's still a space for it. There's no nation on earth that could survive without oil, there's no nation on earth that could survive without coal. So you need that. So I think there's got to be both and. Now here's the thing. When you look at the different places where these data centers are coming, where I thought you were going was to say we need to innovate and we need to make sure that we're making changes. And the place to make that change is in space, on the moon, in orbit. So now we're not taking all of these pollutants and having to breathe it. You put it out, the universe is big, and there's a lot of places where all of those toxins can go. They're not going to impact us.
I don't think they're toxins. I think they're toxins, Len, but I think they're natural byproducts. I think
no.
Everything.
What I'm getting at, we're in lockstep here. What I'm saying is that building data centers in orbit and also on the moon is the direction and the innovation that we need to go. And then also on Earth, we need to make sure that we're investing more time and resources into clean nuclear energy, because there's no studies that shows that nuclear energy is a problem unless there's a malfunction in the core operating systems where radioactive matter can get out. But there's been no issue. And what happened is there was a public relations fiasco when 3 Mile Island had its problems. And ever since then, nobody's wanted to touch it. So I think we're in agreement with that. And to me, when you look at all of these different data centers that are popping up right now, here's my main issue. And I want to get your thoughts and how you feel about it. A lot of these data centers, some of them have to use over 5 million gallons a day. We're talking, trillions of kilowatt hours. And then just running this type of machinery, it's polluting the air because you need, gas to run it. And then also the issue is that noise pollution and all of the vibrations, they're starting to increase levels of cancers as more studies are coming out. And so I'm a believer in AI and I'm a believer in data centers, but I also am a believer that people should have a say as to how the technology to make this all run is deployed, especially if it's in your backyard. If you had a data center down the street from where your kids are growing up, and you found studies that showed conclusively that there were higher instances of cancer and other health related issues, you wouldn't be too happy about having that in your neighborhood, because I know you're a family man. And so I just wish, and I want to get your thoughts about what's your analysis of just all of these data centers coming up and all of the technology that's being deployed. But the backside of it is that you've got a lot of pollutants and materials that are being used and electricity that's being sucked and usurped out of different neighborhoods unbeknownst to the population where those data centers are.
Shame on all the political appointees. Shame on the Congress members and the Senate members today, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Shame on all the elected officials that sat there and speak so ultra realistic when they're on the pulpit about everything that they're so smart about. They should have been smart about it knowing this. We all knew this was coming. We knew this was happening. See, here's the reason why I can't understand why nobody has, or why everybody can't just sit and go, you know what? Donald Trump just makes sense. And I'm not making this about Donald Trump, Len, but what I'm saying is that if you go back and you listen to Donald Trump, he's been saying the same dang thing since he's been saying it. Same thing, decade in, decade out. He's been saying the same thing. Here's what we need to do. Here's the problem. Here's what we need to do. And nobody did it. And again, we all knew this was coming. And I understand the backlash, but think about it this way. Think about the $250 billion that's been invested in all kinds of, actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me take it back. Think about the $1 trillion worth of fraud that's been exposed already in California. and all the other states, right? Think about just the amount, just think about $1 trillion worth of fraud. We could both agree that at least all the states combined that we've been talking about lately, there's at least $1 trillion worth of fraud, right? We can agree on that.
I think that's a high number, but there's definitely fraud. We can
Okay,
agree
fine.
on that.
Let's just say it's 250 billion. Can we live with that?
I can live with that.
That's easily not even the total amount of number of fraud that they've even confirmed.
Being conservative, we can go with that number.
What do you think we could do, Len, with $250 billion worth of fraud on R&D, giving it to an actual responsible R&D project that would say, hey, figure out how to make nuclear energy 100% bulletproof? Would that do better? Because here's the thing, that would do better than anything we've ever invested in. But we don't, because everything has to be politicized. And let's think about it this way: how many hundreds of billions of dollars got wasted on windmills that sit out in the ocean and chop up gray whales every year? I mean, PETA's mad about it. I'm not mad about it. I'm sure there's a lot of people mad. I'm mad about it because they don't even work anymore. They're sitting out there rotting in the ocean, killing whales, and environmentally impacting the environment. Well, we should just go send Greenpeace into all these countries that burn coal still. But instead, they can come over here and harass over here, which is fine. But here's the reality behind it. We should have invested in this. But again, our politicians and our political leaders, shame on them. They're to blame. They are 100% to blame why we're in this situation right now, because they worried about all the weird stuff.
I wouldn't say 100%. I wouldn't say 100%.
Maybe
a quick point and then
80%. 80%.
Here's the reason why I'm okay, because the real question right now is that there are data centers right now going up in Utah and Memphis and California, like huge data centers.
Huge.
Right? And so yes, I agree with you that the infrastructure should have been invested in the past. Okay, so let's put that aside, because what didn't happen, we can't do anything about. All we can do about is what we're faced with today, which is these data centers are going up and they're coming in so quickly that people who are being impacted by this don't have any say. So yet, a lot of their tax dollars are going to establishing that infrastructure.
Okay,
so I don't disagree with the fact that data centers need to be built. What I have an issue with is the fact that the people who are impacted by the environmental changes that are going to happen in their backyard, they don't have a say. There should be a different process to allow these data centers to be placed in different areas. So for example, like imagine a data center placed in a desert, but they need water, right? So think about how can you take an aquifer or an aqueduct or groundwater that's in a place that's not densely populated to solve the water problem, and then build the infrastructure around those things. Now, again, I'm not knowledgeable about the infrastructure necessary to build data centers, but what I am saying is that there needs to be some type of solution that doesn't impact the people. Because here's the thing, it was a question that I asked you. I'm going to come back to it. If you had your kids next to a data center, wouldn't you want to have a say in what's being built that's going to impact your kids' health?
So, number one, again, I'm going to go back to that same point to answer your question. Shame on your political representatives.
But I'm asking you wouldn't. But that's redirecting.
But I wouldn't. And here's what I would do about it. Here's what I would do.
Woodlands, there was a proposal.
Oh, I wouldn't live here. I wouldn't live here. I'd move.
That's the point. And there are people who don't have the financial wherewithal.
But why don't they though?
No, bro, that's the wrong question.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Why don't they though? No, it is a good question though. Why don't they though?
So
why don't they?
Okay, so let me make sure I understand.
Why don't they?
Answering the same question. So my question is I said if you had a data center that was
coming up
in
next
Woodlands, you said you'd move, and then I said, okay, you have the financial wherewithal to do that, and then your question was why don't they? Is that
why don't they?
Oh, okay, Chris.
I'm going to tell you why they don't. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to answer. I'm going to make it very easy. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, because I don't understand.
Are you ready? It's going to be a shocker. They shouldn't have to worry about it because their political representatives should have already known about this and should already have made what the due process and the law and the regulation and whatever they needed to do, and the forethought to know, hey, folks, this is coming. But here the problem is that they can't even pass a budget. They can't even elect somebody. But in certain states.
But I'm talking about the people in the areas where these centers are being built.
So if the people can't move, because the political representatives shouldn't even be a topic of conversation, because those political representatives that represent their constituents, look, if a data center if a data center is going somewhere where a lot of people don't feel it should go, like in the case of the Utah thing, I would immediately go to the politicians and study those politicians for the last 10 to 15 years, because a data center, Len, doesn't pop overnight like that. This is a process. There's a due process here in America to do these things. And I could bet you bottom dollar that if you tie it all down to it, there's an elected official somewhere that pushed this shit through and allowed it to happen when it shouldn't happen. Oh, don't worry about it. Because in the end, the people are going to cry and complain about it as they're using something that's using that data center that's going in their backyard. And they'll complain when they don't have the things they want. And then someone will go, but we tried, because we tried to put a data center there. Number one, the blame falls on the politician. Number two, the blame falls on the politician. Why? Because we shouldn't even be in this situation anyways in America, because we have so much sovereign wealth that everybody should be getting a refund at the end of the year. Everybody. This country should be turning a profit. And again, thanks to Donald Trump, we are turning a profit now, right? Because we're now the largest net exporter of energy, right? So, and then lastly, third point, there comes a time when you kind of really got to take responsibility, right, Len? Like, hey, dude, we can't afford to move. Like, you got to do everything you can. If you know something is coming that you don't like, then you got to take preparation for it and you got to prepare for it. It's biblical.
Okay, Chris.
Len, I mean, seriously, come on.
The biblical part is that the poor will be amongst us.
Always amongst us, yes.
Okay, so here's the reality of poor folks. I get you. They're the people.
AOC.
The people who are elected officials should be a representation of them. Okay, but that hasn't happened. So where we are right now is we're faced with these data centers that are coming in. And here's the point that I wanted to make is that many people are simply surviving. They're not the ones that are going down to their city council meetings. They're not the ones that are looking at future project plans. They're not the ones that are tapped into the 5-year projections of their city. They're just saying, look, I got to raise my kids. I need to go to, I have to send my kids to school, and I've got to work and I've got to make money. I don't have time to be worried about those other types of things. And so the problem is that people tend to react and respond after the decisions being made, but there should have been somebody, to your point, that would have said, look, hey, we want you to know, because we're not expecting you to be at the city council meetings or anything like that. Have like your Channel 3, your local public, station, and leaflets go out to say, hey, data centers are being built. So I'll give you an example. I live in an area that's mixed, where it's industrial and it's retail and it's residential. And so there's a company that's looking to start building. And what it did is there's 100,000 homes in my area. They sent snail mail to every single house to tell us this is good, Chris. They sent it to us to tell us that they were going to build, and they told us the dates of the meeting. So if you wanted to go and have a voice, then you had an opportunity ahead of time to state your issues and your concerns, or ask questions and get clarification. They did that ahead of time. I appreciated that. I wouldn't want something to be built and then I have to react to it after the fact. So now it's on me to make the decision, because then they can say, look, we sent mail, we sent leaflets, we gave you an opportunity. Here were the town hall meetings on this date, this date, this date. These are the people that showed up. Here were the number of times. We have your address listed right here. Do you live at this house here? Yes, I live at that address. Okay. We mailed that to you 5 different times over the last year and a half, and you didn't show up. So what can we do? There's nothing else that we could have done in that situation. In that case, now that's on me, right? But in many cases, like in Utah, those situations, those data centers are being built. Those people weren't informed.
How do we know they weren't informed, though?
Okay. I don't have
How
that
do we know that,
specific
though?
answer to your
I would argue with
specific
you and
question.
say if they weren't informed, I'd say that's a pretty crappy deal. If they are informed, then they get an It's kind of like this. If you, and we've all seen this, you're driving down the street and you see like someone's going to put a liquor store in, they put that notice on there, right? Hey, so-and-so's applied for a liquor license, right?
Yeah.
I'm all for that, what you're just saying right there, Len. What I'm not for is the fact that we shouldn't even be to that point because the political representatives should have already designated this and figured it out. Because see, we should have had this forethought already. But again, the problem is that there's too many people that have too many political agendas, and the political agendas have gotten so wildly out of control that we don't even look at future stuff anymore. We've gotten so backwards with worrying about so many things that are wrong. And therein lies my case in point on why SpaceX is going to be so valuable, because SpaceX is the innovator that's providing the best possible solution we can right now to get out of the situation we're in right now. Because if we think we're going to get out of this situation, right? I don't think so. I think it's going to hyperscale, Len.
15 years from now.
No. I don't think so, Len. I don't think so. I don't think it's that long, dude.
Okay.
I think it's going to happen much faster.
If you were to guess,
I think it's already happening.
what would your timeline be? What would you say?
Within the next 5 years.
Within the next 5 years. So you're saying that we're going to have the technology to transport cargo and machinery to the moon, and
I'm not saying transporting cargo and all those. I'm saying there will be infrastructure providing mass, and there will be within the next 5 years. You're gonna reach whatever it is, base camp 2, base camp 1, and and then from there it's game over. It's hyperscaling.
Okay.
By the time we blink our eye, like Len, you're 55 right now, 54, 55. 54. I'm 44. So you and I are exact lockstep, right? When's your birthday, by the way?
January 19th.
Oh, okay. Mine's July. So I'm a little bit behind you.
Okay.
So I'll be 45. So you're okay. Yeah. All right, cool. So Len, when you look at it this way, when we blink our eyes into the next 10 years and we're in I'm in my mid 50s and you're in mid 60s, we're not even going to recognize the world.
Okay. But that's still 10 years from now. So I agree with you. I agree with you. My biggest concern is that between now and 10 years, there could be 100,000 more cases of cancer that people have gotten because a data center was built in their backyard.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the concern right now. I don't think data centers are the concern. I really don't. I think the concern right now is not having that compute power to cure cancer. Because I think cancer is going to be eviscerated very soon. I think a lot of things like that, because if you look at the way we're folding genomes and protein sequencing and how AI is unlocking, folding sequences that have been stumbling and equations that have been stumbling people for 50, 60, 70 years. I think once you reach the point where you have compute power, because that's the problem right now. That's why the data centers are so hot, because everyone's looking at each other and going, we don't have enough compute power. We need the compute power. So once that compute power comes online, it's game over. Okay. And that's why we're racing to do it, because if China gets it first, it's game over. It's checkmate.
I agree. You and I agree with the outcome. Where you and I disagree with is the process. So for example, that's like saying, okay, in order for us to understand,
but I don't disagree with the process, Len.
Okay, listen, no. You and I do disagree with the process. Here's what I mean.
No, I don't. I don't think we do. Let me explain it to you why I don't, and then I'll pause out.
Okay,
succinctly.
Beyond this point, yes.
Okay, you got to kind of reel me in. He's reeling me in, guys. Okay, just stay on self-focus. Okay, here's the reason why I don't think so. Here's the reason why. Okay, because what are we talking about again?
Specifically, the process to get enough compute power to solve the different
here's why I don't.
Of the world.
I don't agree with putting it. If you go back, I've always said it. The job of the government is to maintain sovereignty, pass a budget, and to make sure that Apple Computer, not saying it's them, whomever, XYZ company, is not throwing arsenic in the water after they make an iPhone, okay? Or whatever, a widget, whatever it is that they're doing, okay? That's the job, okay?
Regulation and oversight.
Make sure free trade is happening, all of those things, right?
Yep.
Boom, that's it. That's it. Done, gone. Go to sleep now, all you people that have opinions. Like, just go away. We don't want to know your opinions, right?
Yes.
Here's where we get it wrong, okay? I don't think the data center should go down the street where it's going to cause cancer. I'm against that. I watched Erin Brockovich, PG&E, all that stuff. Like, boom, I'm all for it. Like, I'm going to go watch Erin Brockovich now and cheer her on again, even though that issue is probably long gone, but I'm for that. Mm-hmm. What I'm against is getting in the way of progress. Okay. What we're doing now is we're using this screw up to virtue signal that we're on the right, because this is always what these lawmakers do. They screw up everything, and then they make companies and everything, for the most part, 80% of the time, look bad and go, oh, we're going to be here to fix it. No, what these politicians need to do is they need to get in a freaking room. They need to go to Camp David. I don't care where that is they go. Hold an emergency session of Congress, sit down and go, okay, what areas of the United States of America can we carve up right now that are federal lands, that are positioned strategically, that have the cooling, the grid power, and the least environmental impact, where we can throw all these data centers strategically and spread them all over the country. You know what, Len? We did it post-World War II with missile silos and military bases. Think about how we've placed our Air Force bases, missile silos, and our Marine bases and Air Force bases around this country. We did it because guess what? There were sound, pragmatic patriots in the offices making these decisions. Mm-hmm. Now we don't. We have radicals that are so incentivized to line their pockets and pay their NATO aristocrats so they can stay in power and look like celebrities.
Man, you just gave my argument about your president. Bravo. It's about time.
Oh my God, Len. That's what you got out of it. I love you, Len. Chris. I love it. I love it.
No, your point is definitely well
That's
made.
where I'm at. And I know we're on the same point there.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you with that. But I think our point of divergence is that while there are businesses that are profiting right now on the backs of people who have been that don't get to reap the benefits, but yet they're paying a portion of their tax base to build that data center. Okay. So look, I'm not saying that data centers are the problem. We have to use data centers
what sucks about
to have this conversation. There's a data center where this data right now
is going on.
Exactly. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Tell me.
You know what sucks about it? You want to know what sucks about it? This is what sucks about it. Politicians are so creepy and so slimy. They're bullies. And you want to know why they're bullies, Len? Because they go after the companies and the corporations because they know they can bleed the most money out of them. When in reality, they need to go after themselves, and they need to go after the criminals that they're allowing to take all of our money. They need to go look at all the fraud. Instead of going, oh, we need to make a hard time for a data center and a company and coming after the company, they need to go after all the BS that they've done, all the money they've wasted. And they need to go there and look for the scapegoat. But instead they don't.
I agree.
Instead they don't. They go, oh, and it's because you know why though, Len? Because it's easy for them to virtue signal that way. It's easy for them to virtue signal everybody, make them look like, oh, here we are, we're the rescuers. We're going to take out those big, bad data centers. You know what? Wait. God forbid that we reach the point one day that it never happens to like Resident Evil or whatever, when you have that massive virus, because I don't know what it was, because people just go out of control, and it's like, it's just.
No, I get you. And I agree that there's way more good that can come out of AI and the expansion of AI in the future. And I think there's also an equally dark set of opportunities that can happen because of the misuse of the technology and also the misuse of the infrastructure connected to it. But I want to change gears and talk
before you do that.
Okay.
What I'm so sick and tired of, but just to wrap that up, is that on both sides, everybody's going like this.
Yes.
And you gotta pick a side, and everyone's going like this. And here's the reality. You are getting screwed, Len. I'm getting screwed. Everyone's getting screwed. And at the end of the day, when we ask for accountability, we're told we're not allowed to see what's going on here. You need to trust us. And I'm sorry, Len, that feels more like a fascist and a communist government than anything else. More so.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Don't worry about it. Where it's I'm sorry, but it's not. These politicians need to be held accountable.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. And
You know what'd be great?
I still don't want to divert from AI, but I definitely want to talk about just a positive aspect of AI potentially. And I want to get your take if you look at this as something that's positive or if you see it as something dark. And so a lot of teens are now using different chat bots to have conversations about their mental health. And so they're getting ideas and concepts and feedback based on their circumstances. And especially the fact you have 7 kids, and they're varying ages. And I'm sure, statistically that 1 or 2 of them are going to have or could have the potential of having some type of challenge that they're going through. I just want you to give me your perspective about using chatbots for feedback as it relates to their mental health, the benefits, drawbacks. Where do you stand on that?
I think chatbots and AI and everything, it falls into all the same categories still, I think, as far as you're using it right now, right? You're an end user, just like you're an end user of alcohol, tobacco, medications, food, right? Automobiles, airplanes, electronics, everything, right? Like you get that little warning. I favor earbuds. I don't like over the air earphones because my ears get hot all the time. And I like the way the earbuds feel, but I get the stupid warning all the time. Oh, you're listening to earbuds too long. And I like to crank it. And I know it's probably not good for me, but I could still hear a mouse, on cotton, right? So I'm like, until that starts happening to me, I'm just going to keep taking my NID and I'm going to keep, all the things I do. And if it stopped, then I'll stop using it. But the reality is this behind AI. I taught all my kids how to use the internet. As soon as they were born, some people would argue about this, but I taught them tablets. I showed them how to use iPads. I showed them how to use the internet, and I didn't restrict them. My kids don't need timers, by the way, Len. Okay. Like I didn't set FaceTime restriction or my screen time restrictions. I didn't do any of that. I let them, and it goes back to the beginning because I read the Ferberization method, and by Dr. I Ferberized all my kids. So self-soothe, all that stuff. So my kids, they get off the internet on their own. They go out and play. I don't have to tell my kids to go out and exercise, go to the gym, eat, sleep. I don't need to do any of that. They do it all on their own. Now, the part that I'm having a difficult thing with is that I keep telling my kids to learn AI and they just don't want to learn it for some reason. So, right. Because I use it for almost everything.
There's been a big movement amongst kids, not to cut you off.
Yeah, I've seen it. There is a huge movement. Yes.
Yeah. So
especially Gen Zs. Because Gen Zs are very, and it's interesting you mentioned that because Gen Zs are the general consensus among Gen Z is to protect your mental health. That's like their thing, right? Whereas millennials are work harder, get bigger dreams, pay bigger bills, go for the freaking gusto. And baby boomers are hoard all everything and be selfish, right? I had to throw that in there for the baby boomers, right? And then Gen Beta, which is coming after that, we don't know yet because they're the first generation that's going to grow up completely in an AI world. So I think what happens is it starts at the home with everything. You as the adult in the house, you need to understand AI and you need to understand how it works. And you need to understand, just like people, like for example, right now, the biggest aspect or biggest thing you could learn right now is how you could teach companies, specifically small to medium-sized businesses, how they could use and implement AI. Meaning cut to the bone and give them an executive delta on why and where they need AI and what they don't need. And in an efficient manner, if you're doing that, great, you're going to make a lot of money. Same thing in your house. You need to, like, the difference in how you prompt that AI, Len, is the difference in how you get that answer back, right? So for me, I've been training my chat. I use a lot of them, and one I've been using for a long time. I train all my chatbots. I said, I want 3 perspectives on everything you give me. I want a liberal perspective, a center perspective, and I want a right-leaning perspective, or more importantly, I want a sympathetic, I want a pragmatic, and I want a middle ground solution so that I can get a perspective on everything. And I think that that's great. I think that that's phenomenal because guess what? Our medical system is jacked up, and not because we have a bad medical system, because we have too many politicians trying to ultra realistically get their hands into it. So I think chatbots and AI is actually a good thing. It's a way of the future because, I mean, think about it, Len. Since COVID, doctors don't want to see you anyways. They all do the Zoom doctor appointments, right? I would rather have an AI chatbot watching me on a camera, listening to me, getting a live feed of my labs than a human doctor.
Okay, so here's my.
I'd rather have data or Trody or not or what's the guy's name from Alien, the cyborg from Alien, Bishop. I'd rather have Bishop. I'd rather walk in the doctor's office today and have Bishop train me, treat me.
Okay, so here's the only glitch, because I agree with you that it's important for us to understand that we are the end user of the technology, and using it responsibly gets more responsible outcomes. The same thing is true with the car. The same thing is true with the gun. All of these things that we can use to either, the same thing is true with nuclear energy, right? How we use it and how we harness it makes all the difference. Because the challenge that I have with nuclear power with AI,
that it's great and it's better than wind and solar combined and water.
No, I'm talking about AI now.
Sorry, I thought we were going back to that one.
No. So
I know I'm messing with you.
So the issue that I have with AI is that there are kids that are out there that are going through mental health challenges, and they believe that a chatbot is going to give them the right answer, and it can probably give them some good advice. However, the issue that I have as a parent is that if my child is having some mental health challenges, I want to know about it, and I want to be able to provide perspective to help them. Now, a lot of kids, even with their cell phones and with their computers, they're accessing stuff that you and I have no idea. And so now we can, now for me, I know how I've trained my kids. I know the type of relationship that I have with them, but I'm not going to be naive to believe that they do everything exactly the way that I showed them, and they never veer off because of, their ideas and wondering what's out there and stuff like that. I'm not naive. So as a parent, I would want to know if my kid is having some mental health challenges, because, there's statistics. There was a study that was done, and it talked about how 28% of teens. Wait, let me see. Let me find the right one.
While you're looking for that.
High school suicide. I found it. High school suicide attempts, 9.5% reporting having attempted suicide. Did you hear what I just said? 9.5.
I did.
So that's 1 out of every 10 kids have attempted suicide. So if it's that extreme, for me as a parent, I would want to know if my kid is using a chatbot because of the fact that there are some challenges they're experiencing. I could give them perspective about it. And so they may be misinterpreting things that I've said to them, because, like, for example, as a father, I'm pretty hard on my sons, and I expect them to grow up to be men. I expect them to have a certain level of toughness, of mental toughness. Yeah. And sometimes I can push a little bit too hard. So if they interpret something that I say, so like sometimes they'll come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, how do I do this?" And my response will be, "Go figure it out in the moment."
Go figure it out.
Yeah. And you come back and you let me know what you discovered. And sometimes, like, imagine if one of my kids or both of them were going through some challenges and they were reaching out in a way to connect with me, but I misinterpreted it, and now they were already prone to go out and do some harm to themselves. Like, if I knew that they were having some challenges and they're going on this chatbot, like, I would want to know about that. And I don't want to infringe upon their privacy, but it's the same thing. Like, I'm not going to allow my kids to live in my house and close the door if there's a girl here because they need privacy. No, you're in my house.
So until you're paying the bills and you're in your own place, I ain't going to pay for you to play.
Exactly. And the same is true with regard to data privacy. Like, there should be some type of way. I don't know the answer to it, Chris, well, and maybe you could have a solution, but I would want to know if my kid's going through some challenges with mental health.
I agree with you. And I think it's an easy way to figure it out. I don't think it's an easy way to figure it out, but I think there's a very good solution to that right away. And the fact is this. Look, if your son or daughter is under the age of 18 and they live with you and they're using these services, well, right away, they should be custodial accounts, right? So for example, my children don't have their own Apple IDs on their iPhones or their iPads. I know their Apple IDs. Their Apple IDs are linked back to me. So I'm logged into all their Apple IDs. I could see all their messages. I could see all everything they do. I could see it, their profiles. So again, this is something where I've educated myself because I was in tech previously, but I'm just a tech person. So I'm like, look, you got to stay ahead of the stuff. You got to know. So that's number one. Number two, look, here's a simple reality behind it. If something like that gets asked in a chatbot, and this is linked to a parental unit, then that parental unit automatically gets a ding on their phone and says, hey, by the way, Johnny Smith just searched or asked me. Hi, good evening, Mr. Cooper. I just wanted to let you know that your son Googled about suicide today at 4:55 p.m. I want that notification. And that's a very easy thing to do with the technology we have today. So I think it is a good thing. And then by most parts, that chatbot is probably going to, or should be engineered and should be railed and safeguarded to say, hey, by the way, Johnny Smith, your life is beautiful, and I think you need to call this. I think you need to talk to your. I think you need to see whatever that language is. I'm not a mental health therapist or how that, but that language should
be some type of language that gives them positive affirmation to take the right steps.
And I think the safe thing about an AI doctor again is this: when done correctly, I don't trust any doctor I go to see today, because a doctor that I see today might not like me because I like Trump. I'm sorry, but we're in that world today. We're in a world today where people get treated differently, and our politicians, Len, to your point a lot, have allowed this type of environment to happen because they're supposed to be leaders, but they do it for their own good. So I would rather see a artificial chatbot doctor than a real doctor any day, because that doctor, AI doctor,
I can see that
has all the,
be fair
because think about it,
and they have access to all the information,
everything. Hey, tell me what Siegfried and Roy would say about my condition right now. Well, tell me what so-and-so, you could list any doctor, any opinion you want, and you could, and that thing's going to chunk it out for you.
You mean
so?
Sigmund
Where's
Freud,
the what's that?
You said Siegfried and Roy. Those are the magicians.
What was I meant to say?
You know what I mean? Freud.
Sigmund Freud. It's kind of the same. They're time travelers, right? I mean, who knows, right? So I think it's the future. I think it's the future because here's the reality. Doctors are humans. There's just no way that as the population grows and as we continue to have higher demands, there's no way we're going to get ourselves out of this situation by other than having artificial, because we can't train enough nurses, doctors to facilitate the medical needs today. Like, think about it. We don't have enough nurses and doctors. Len, you're in that field every day. Do you think we have enough nurses and doctors?
Not even close.
No. It's exactly why it's interesting you pulled this up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it fast enough, because I look at a lot of stuff and I'll text it to you when I find it. But it's interesting because if you look it up, I don't have it on here, do I? I do. Oh, no, I don't. I was looking at the election fraud going on right now.
Well, while you're looking that up, I want to give our audience a couple of other crazy statistics. So check this out. Youth suicide ranking. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 5 through 24. The second leading cause of death.
5 through 24. Second leading cause?
Second leading cause of death. Suicide. And so when you look at just at post-COVID and all of the mental health challenges that have just exploded since then, we have to really hone in on what's going on with our kids. And we've got to be in touch as parents, look, not overreacting to all the little changes, but really being in tune. And I'd rather overreact to a change that's happening than underreact and allow unknowingly something to happen and then wish that I wouldn't have. And so I'm really concerned about that. So I want to hear what you have to say. And I want to wrap up with our ongoing bet around the Iran,
most definitely,
quote unquote war. So
I can't pull it up right now, but basically the premise of it is you could look it up. It's in Visual Capitalist.
Okay.
And that's a great resource. I like looking at that because it just breaks it down very easily. And basically, if you look at it, the consensus is medical professionals, medical jobs are still the highest paying. You look at doctors, pediatricians, anesthesiologists, nurses, all these things. They're still the highest paying professions are nurses and doctors and medical professionals, because that is the greatest need. And it's going to continue to be the greatest need, especially as baby boomers age into the system more and more. And then your Gen Xers do. And then anything that's going to come up today. But I think AI is only solution to make healthcare affordable. There's just no way. Watch how healthcare becomes so inexpensive. I mean, think about it. How inexpensive healthcare has gotten for a lot of people with just the GLP-1 stuff now, right? I mean, you can go online and order diabetes drugs and weight loss drugs and sex drugs and whatever else you want to order and hair drugs and whatever, and male replacement and women replacement therapies all online now. Can you imagine doing that 10 years ago, Len? 5 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Not at all.
So now you can do that. So I just think we're going in that direction. And I would rather have an AI linked to a known up-to-date health management. Like, think about it. Think about if your doctor was Anthropic.
They have access to all of the information. So at least as it relates to providing information, because, think about all the diagnoses that were misdiagnosed over the years. So having to go and get 3 and 4 and 5 different opinions. Now you just go onto the chat bot and say, look, this is the ailment. This is the ailment. These are what, my primary care physician said I had. That's not it, because I took XYZ drug and this didn't happen. And then you'd be able to get an answer like that. So I'm with you for that. I think we both agree, as it relates, coming back to the mental health issue with children, is that there should be some type of ping or push notification to us as the parents when our children put some type of keywords that suggest there are some mental health challenges.
Most definitely.
I agree with you with that, with having, all of their keys connected to you, as opposed to having their own accounts and having all of their passwords, and all of those things are absolutely necessary. Couldn't agree with you more. So we agree on that.
I had an amazing time today debating and talking with you today, Len. We had a conversation earlier today, and I just want to say I'm very thankful that I got a chance to do this with you today, because this was an amazing opportunity today to do this. I think this is probably one of our best conversations we had today, and I'm so looking forward to seeing what's going to happen on Monday. But I'll throw it over to you to close this out, Len.
Yeah, to your point, what's interesting is that when two people, what made this the most invigorating and joyful is that we disagreed, but we were able to be cordial and respectful in our disagreement. And while we may never come to a specific agreement about the topics that we feel so passionately about, you know what? I can still call you my brother. I can still call you a friend. I can still ask you for advice, and I know you can do the same thing with me. And what we need to exercise in this country, especially during this time of further division, is getting people who disagree on things fundamentally and coming together, because you're going to learn. We learn from each other. And so while Chris may feel that I got the better of him today, there's going to be another time where he's going to get the better of me, and then I have to go back and research and get my perspective. And sometimes we'll research and look at the same numbers and come up with completely different conclusions, because we see the world through different lenses, and that's okay. But it's important to talk about it. It's important to learn from each other and to respect each other in the process. So Chris, I appreciate you, brother, and I look forward to our next conversation, and I can't wait till the next time we get together.
See you, Len. Thanks.
This conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.